Welcome, drag racing fan, Between the Slicks, live here on Wednesday night. And we are certainly looking forward to diving into the world of drag racing, in particular, highlighting Southeast Gassers Association action from Shadyside Dragway, the Shelby Nationals, presented by Robbins Repairables. We're going to be speaking with the A-Gas winner, Gabriel Burrell, in just a few moments. We'll also highlight the other winners. We'll go into drag news later on. And as usual, we'll have an opinionated piece right here on Between the Slicks. This time, certainly a positive one, because Shadyside is showcasing what all drag strips, new, old, historic, not historic, out there in the middle of nowhere or tucked up next to a community, need to be doing, and that is making improvements. I'm Lee Kraft, the host here, aka the Monday Morning Racer. Thank you all for chiming in, and be sure to hit the like button on the show, whatever platform you're watching on, and share, repost on X, and subscribe to the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel, where a lot of great content in the world of drag racing and beyond will and does roll out. In particular, with the Southeast Gassers Association, you can catch the action from the first race of the season, in particular with the A-Gas category. They're from Brainerd Motorsports Park. And we'll talk a little bit with Mr. Burrell about that event, because it certainly sets up the second event with him, and a spectacular comeback, if you want to put it that way, for the defending 2023 A-Gas category champion. So you can see the first race of the season, the action with A-Gas, on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel. You can also see the action in the A-Gas category from Shadyside, the complete rounds of eliminations, on the YouTube channel right now as well. If you have not seen that after the show, swing by and catch up on the action in A-Gas from the Shelby Nationals. We talk with the number one qualifier and Leslie Horn, the owner of the Southeast Gassers Association, also competitor in A-Gas and the Chick Magnet, and take you through the day and follow the storylines of those competing in the A-Gas category. Just as top storyline, I think, was Barry Lynn making his first final ever in Sega competition in A-Gas, going up against Gabriel Burrell in the Southern Flyer. All those stories, you can hear them and hear from the drivers in these beautiful racing cars of the Southeast Gassers Association on the Monday Morning Racer platform right now. But keep in mind, for all of you Sega fans, the Southeast Gassers Association does have their deal with PowerTube TV, and you are going to be able to see full race recaps soon enough. I believe they were talking about towards the end of April. You're going to see the first one roll out, and very closely behind it, the second one roll out. So they'll get you caught up on all the action from Brainerd Motorsports Park and Shadyside Dragway on PowerTube TV. Just go to PowerTube TV, search it, find it on Google, their Facebook page and beyond. You'll find it, and you'll be able to watch the action from all the categories of the Southeast Gassers Association. Again, thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the share button, chime in where you are watching from, and we will be more than glad to take your questions, as we're going to take a break right here. And after the break, we're going to have the Shelby Nationals winner in the A-Gas category, Mr. Gabriel Burrell. This is all brought to you by, presented by McKinney Corp. Very thankful to Murph McKinney and McKinney Corp for them helping me in my career and allowing me to help them and assist them to enlarge their footprint and to remind people in the drag racing world that they are a top tier source for fabrication needs. Not only do they build the finest funny car chassis and finest top fuel chassis, but they have parts, pieces, and components that can assist you in your door car, bracket car, and, well, even your gasser if you need assistance with that. This episode of Between the Slicks, presented by McKinney Corp.
McKinney Motorsports is your #1 source for all your chassis needs. McKinney Motorsports is the leading chassis parts supplier and fabricator in nitro drag racing. From custom tanks and fittings, full chassis builds, body mounts, steering components, fasteners, tabs, clamps, composite parts, and much more. Our household name in the racing world guarantees added performance on the track. Join our list of proven winners that spans over 50 years of racing experience.
And welcome to the show, Mr. Burrell. Once again, having you here on Between the Slicks. You're no stranger. You win a lot when I go out to a Southeast Gassers Association race. And congratulations once again on another victory, Gabe.
Thank you. I don't know if I'd say I won a lot, but had a pretty good run here the last 3 or 4 years.
For sure, for sure. And man, look, I took some time to dive in on your social media and was able to look at that Ford sedan, and that thing was rough when you got it. And to see where it is now, the beautiful race machine that it is, what a spectacular transition. What's the story on you finding that hot rod, and how long did it take over at Quain's place to get it ready to go racing in Southeast Gassers Association competition?
Well, to be honest, I wanted a T-Bird, like a 55 to 57, and I looked, and there was maybe one popped up in the 2-month time period I was looking, and it was way up north, and I'm not sure there was even enough to start with that was there, and it was missing a hard top, so it was going to be a long stretch. So then I looked at 33 Willys bodies, and I couldn't find any of those that were close enough to race weight to be worthwhile. So then I started just looking for cars that fit the around 100-inch wheelbase goal, because that was really, I was building a car to race, not a car to be pretty. So I needed it to fall as close to that 100-inch wheelbase, because I thought that gave me enough wheelbase to be able to handle it, but short enough to keep the weight off of it. So I started looking, and to be honest, a 2-door sedan was probably towards the bottom of my wish list. But then I got to looking, and they're like right around the 104-inch stock wheelbase. The tires are as far forward and aft as possible. So you've got a small body with the longest possible wheelbase. So I started thinking that's pretty good. And Sam Gable, who's now head of tech, I guess, in Sega, had one sitting in a flower bed somewhere down in Georgia. And he had mentioned that it could be bought. And he sent me a picture of it. And he's like, I'm telling you, this is the roughest car I've ever saw. Well, I looked at the picture, and I was like, it's not too bad. I saw, the Falcon wasn't a whole lot worse than it, wasn't a whole lot better than this. So maybe we can do something. So I talked to him, and the price was $700 or $800. It was dirt cheap, and he said he'd deliver it for free. So I went ahead and jumped on it there, and it showed up, and the pictures on my Facebook clearly show that it was in fact the roughest car I had ever seen as well. But at this point, it's a race car. It's just metal. It's fixable. So we bought it and started to work on it. So I guess that's how the 2-door sedan came about. It wasn't because I love 2-door sedans. It was the right car at the right time for the right price.
Man, what a fascinating story, and I'm glad that it worked out that way. You have one unique piece, and in drag racing, something that fans often complain about, such as modern-day drag racing with NHRA Pro Stock, they joke Pro Camaro. It's all a bunch of Camaros. I mean, even the Fords look so much like a Camaro, and there's nothing distinguishable between the Jelly Bean Chronicles, if you will, of the way those cars are shaped. And you certainly bring into the Southeast Gassers Association a unique piece. Even though there are some beautiful Chevy 2s and some beautiful shoeboxes, your car is certainly distinct, and it stands out, and I'm glad that you've got it out there. So with its particular configuration now, what is the combination as far as the power plant? And why don't you go ahead and bring us up to speed on whatever new ladder bars you got?
So drivetrain is basically a John Kazi built 474-inch 429 460 base Ford. He built it, I guess, mid last season. We got it and put it in there, and the power's there. I've still got to figure out how to harness it. but it just as flawless as a small block I had from him. It's always there when I need it. So, and in the finals, it obviously a clear display of horsepower there, the last 50 foot of the racetrack to pull back around the wagon. Ram clutch, G-force transmission. Can't say enough about either of those. Then it's just a old school, like a 1957 Ford housing, the round top weak housing, but it's held up so far for the most part. I had to weld on it a little bit, but it was mainly a rust issue, not an issue with the housing. 35 spline axles, and then got Stanhuff shocks on it. And as far as the ladder bars go, I wouldn't call them new ladder bars now. They're just reinforced ladder bars. We beat the broke ladder bar back to a fairly straight configuration, clamped it to a piece of straight metal, cut out the worst parts, put some back in it, welded it up, and then put a big Band-Aid across it to cover the spot that had broke. And to be honest, they'd lasted 5 years like they were. So I think we've got at least another 5 or 10 years in them now that we've got them Band-Aided and back the way they are. They're way better than they were the first time I came out to a race with them.
Well, let's. I'm gonna bring up the video and we can walk everyone through that may not understand exactly what we're talking about. What happened at Brainerd Motorsports Park in the first race with you? Though you turned on the win light, it was a technical defeat, if you will, as far as going on any further that day with breaking the ladder bar. So I'm going to bring up the footage now, and everybody out there can see just the wild ride you had. All right, we all in the world of drag racing that watch Southeast Gases Association competition, we're used to your car making a move. And you've got to bring it back, it seems like, routinely. But this thing made a move and made a move in the opposite direction. Did you recognize right off the bat that, wow, this is wildly different than what I'm used to behind the wheel and that something had went wrong?
Oh, yeah. To be honest, I thought it had broken axle. It makes left moves. It doesn't make right moves. So wasn't really prepared for a right move. Was able to catch it before it got to the wall and get it back. But as I got back to the pits, I jacked it up and honestly thought it had broken axle. And I was just praying that it was going to be the long axle out of the car, and I could go steal somebody's short one that had got beat first round and hopefully find one that was close enough to make work for second round. Jacked it up, and that wasn't the case.
It wasn't. That one, that puts you out of competition there at Brainerd Motorsports Park, and the next one's up, Shelby Nationals. You roll in, and you go on to win the race. We're going to go through each and every round, but what were your thoughts going in? Were you able to, one, Friday night, get any testing in, and then rolling into qualifying, be a bit more confident, or was qualifying also your testing with having everything buttoned back up?
I made one pass Friday night and got a very good sense of false confidence there. Thought I was ready for Saturday, but in fact I was no closer to ready for Saturday than I really was when I left Georgia. I just didn't realize at the moment all that I had to deal with on Saturday. But Friday night I made a good pass and was ready for Saturday, and Shadyside's my home track, and pretty much when I go in there, I feel like I've got at least as good a chance to win as anybody does. So I was looking forward to Saturday.
Man, everybody was. Saturday, it did certainly turn out to be the big show that everyone expected, and you certainly played a part in that, and so many of the other competitors putting on a good show that Sega does. Take a few moments. What do you think about what Shadyside is doing as far as bringing its facility out of the 1960s, if you will, and bringing a little bit more modern and having some amenities such as even hot running water, new grandstands, things of that nature.
Obviously, the new grandstands are great. I love the feel of Shadyside, and I don't think that's changed with what they're doing. But it is nice for the fans to have somewhere to sit and nice restrooms to go to, and so forth and so on. I mean, the real feel of the racetrack hasn't changed though, which is great. But if the Buff boys are watching this, they need to change their French fries back to the old kind, because I like the old ones better than the new ones they came out with here.
All right, the winner wants the French fries back. I haven't had the French fries because I will say the Sega show is so well done with so little breaks. Like you can't, like you're going to miss something when you go to the concessions. And if you are working it as media, as I am, even now, me changing it up instead of filming everything and just focusing on A-gas, very, very few opportunities to take a break and actually try the local fare to track. But if you're saying they need to bring the French fries back, all right, Buffs, you got to listen. The winner wants the French fries back. Okay. Well, Gabe, we're going to take a look at round one and go through the rest of the rounds and get your take on the day and the challenges that you were presented with, that false sense of security that you mentioned from testing and rolling into race day. All right, round one there. You were handed one. Let's be honest here. Your competitor rolled the beams, couldn't get the staging process right, and automatically gives you a win light. And your card made that, trademark left-hand move out there in round one. Was that something you were expecting, or is that further than you thought it would go?
To be honest, Friday night, the car probably made the straightest pass it's made in 2 seasons. So, no, I had no expectation that the car was going to make a left move at all. Luckily, I saw his red come on before I ever dropped the clutch. So, when it made a left move, I could push it back in and idle on down the track. I'm glad it made that, because I would have hated to have to try to drive it back out of the predicament it had got itself in low gear there. So, yeah, definitely dodged a bullet there.
Sometimes you need those breaks. It's not always about being the absolute best car. Sometimes in racing, you get those breaks and you're able to go on to the next round. And I think your story, again, show up, race. You never know what's going to happen and sometimes you get some back in the racing world. You had the incident at Brainerd Motorsports Park, and you get one back here, and you're able to continue through your day. But that's not the only thing you were fighting, from what I understand, what I was able to see on race day. You made some changes to the car during the race to get it to where it was a winning car by the end of the day.
So yeah, early on in I think first round of qualifying, it had a miss in high gear, or third and fourth gear. Not a bad miss, but pronounced enough it was noticeable in the car. Had an ignition box failure, came back, replaced that, thought it was fixed, and then came back out for the next round, and I had a shock that went out. And I'll have to say, for Sandhuff shocks, they have to be the toughest thing in the world, because these shocks were used when I started racing 10 years ago. They've been on the car for, I'm guessing, 50 to 80,000 miles of interstate traveling. Every pass I've made in A-gas, they've been on the back of the car, and they've been leaking for 2 or 3 years, and I wouldn't take them off to get them rebuilt because I was afraid it'd slow the car down. So one of them finally laid down on me. I stuck another set of Sandhuff shocks. I had a new pair as spares, stuck them back on there, and the car corrected its hard left move, at least for the time being. So can't say enough about how good the shocks were there. I mean, who could ask for 80,000 miles worth of life out of a drag racing shock, and then to be able to put another one on there and go right down the racetrack?
That's impressive. That's impressive. They're even working while leaking. That is fascinating, man. That is a heck of a product.
Yes, they leaked. I'm guessing they've leaked for at least 10 or 15 races now they've been leaking. And of course, I knew that I was better off to get them changed. But to be honest, they were a little bit faster than the brand new set. So I wasn't willing to get them worked on because I was afraid I'd lose that couple hundredths advantage they had on the new set. So I was going to get every last ounce of life I could out of them. And I
Right.
got all the way down to the last pass on them. So,
Man, it's something like I don't want a new baseball glove. This one's broke in. I can field with this perfectly. Interesting. So let me go ahead and bring it up. Imagine this. Leslie Horn in the comments section. Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate you joining in. He says, I almost did not recognize Gabe. I never saw him cleaned up. Maybe take his hat off so we can see that Brillo loaf. And then Dujanet Bland, the Not Bland show. He wants to know what is special about the French fries. Can you describe the difference that the change in the concessions?
yeah, so they got the little small French fries like McDonald's have now, and they used to have a little bigger French fry, not like a big French fry, just like a medium-sized fry. Get their chili cheese fries, and they're the best at any racetrack. Also, their fried bologna sandwich and their corn dogs are absolutely the best of any racetrack. I look forward to the racetrack food here on occasion.
Oh, okay,
As you
okay.
can
That's
tell.
it. Hey, I look, track food and like fair food, sometimes they go really much hand in hand. And that's interesting to hear that you think they've got the best corn dog, because I had the corn dog at Brainerd Motorsports Park and I'm like, wow, this is like one of the best corn dogs I've ever had in my life. So if Shadyside even tops Brainerd, that has got to be a spectacular corn dog. And yes, bologna sandwich there at Shadyside is good, and love seeing bologna on the menu. And in particular, Carolinas and North Carolina, you'll find tracks have that sandwich on the menu. Carolina Speedway dirt track, not too far from Gastonia, North Carolina, they have a killer fried bologna sandwich as well. So, yeah, knowing the track food is very important, and tracks having good food is certainly important. It's a part of the experience for sure. Well, we're going to continue to roll through your experience on winning Saturday at the Shelby Nationals. Round 2. Take a look at it now. Travis Clark saying the double burger is really good there as well. We'll get a lot of praise for the Shadyside concession stands, other than the fries. Get the fries right, Buffs. Come on. Well, Gabe, you had a competition single because the gentleman in the comments section, Sega 55 Chick Magnet Racing, broke a transmission to add to the woes of his weekend mechanically. Did you see that as that opportunity? Did you have enough time knowing that, hey, I've got a crack at the track to get my car right for the rest of the rounds I've got ahead of me?
Yeah, right before that round, I honestly thought the car was probably a little bit rich, so I leaned it out, made a slight shock adjustment, and thought that was probably enough to get it to go as straight as I could hope for. It went a little bit left, but it was still good. Ended up losing lane choice to Todd by a couple thousandths there. I can't remember what I ran. I ran like a 31 to his 30 or 32 to his 33. Best pass the car had made so far on Saturday. So I was fairly happy with that going into the round with Todd, but glad there was nobody next to me because I was able to sit there and get everything as perfect as I could before I ever let my left foot out there.
Where did you qualify? Because going into the semifinal matchup, you're going up against the number one qualifier and had been performing. Todd's been performing well back at Brainerd this race, consistent. I'm not sure where he is on the points ladder. I haven't been able to look at it going into the show, but I'm sure he is up there, even though Kenneth Phillips won the first race and you've won the second race. It's been kind of the people who've gone out there and won. They've gone out early one way or the other of these events, and he is performing exceptionally well and being consistent. So where did you place on the qualifying ladder?
I started out a number 5 spot. I think Todd was first. Kenneth and Ben were second or third there. I don't know which one was which. Then Leslie was fourth, I was fifth, and Quayne was sixth. I'm not sure where it fell after that, but I was fifth. Wasn't very happy with my qualifying attempts, but at least you get some time to make up for it later on there. And I would think that Todd's first, second, third, somewhere in there. Me, Kenneth, and Todd would be first, second, third, and I don't know exactly how they fall. But we're all three somewhere right there within a round or two of each other.
He is certainly performing well. This was a big matchup, and he had been running well, but you have been marching through the rounds, and you've been getting the car back to where you want it and where it should perform. And we'll take a look at the semifinal matchup right now.
Right there, folks. I mean, big time. Gabriel Burrell taking the win in the mortgage options lane.
I have to agree, as David Lancaster put it, drag race right there. The voice of Southeast Gasser Association from the Tower of Power there at Shadyside Dragway, announcing over that run. That was a tremendous drag race. Do you happen to remember the margin of victory on that pass against Todd, winning over him?
I had him a little bit on the tree, and he had me a little bit on ET. I think he had me almost 200ths on ET, and I had him 300ths on the tree. So margin of victory was 01, 02, I'm guessing. I don't remember looking at it on the card, but it was no more than 02.
Man, it is absolutely fascinating. These machines that are period correct and based on old technology in so many ways are putting on the show that they are. That race right there, I think of the race between Quayne Stott and Dean Jonas. I think of the race we're about to see in the final with you and Barry. And that's just A-gas. You go throughout the racing all day in B-gas and C-gas and Superstock and beyond. The racing is astounding that takes place in the Southeast Gassers Association. And I'm sure that's one reason why you even bothered to compete in Sega, is the racing itself is that challenging.
Oh yeah, there's no slouches in A-gas. I mean, Dean Jonas, you can pretty much count on 00 to 02 reaction times out of him every time. You used to count on me for a 02 or somewhere thereabouts. I'm not quite as good as I was back then. Barry Lynn, Rob Walden, Quayne, when Mitch was there, him. I mean, most all of A-gas is good for, if you can't cut a 03 to 05 light, you're probably going to be in the way there. So, drivers are there on the starting line. They can get the cars down the track, and everybody's starting to get their stuff figured out and making them run now. Obviously I qualified number 5 and ended up winning the race. And I think Barry qualified number 11 and was in the finals, something like that. So that should give a pretty good indication of how tight the fields are, every race we go to, that, you might get a okay, easy round first round, but second round, the guy you're racing could easily win the race no matter where you qualified.
I completely agree. You see that at Brainerd, you saw it at Shadyside, that all the competitors are tough. And, though there might be some within the field that are more popular than others, certainly an old wagon can beat up on you. An old sedan can take the wind light from you, or Chevy 2 can put a number on you and get the wind light, and even shoeboxes somehow are able to walk all over people from time to time. So it is extremely competitive out there. And before we take a look at the final, shout out to Barry Lynn, first final in Southeast Gassers Association competition in A-Gas. Congratulations to him on making the final. And with having you on the show, obviously he didn't win, but what a drag race it was. We'll take a look at that final now.
Here we are.
I love it. A sedan and wagon and Chevy versus Ford, and spectacular in Southeast Gas Association competition. And that was a close one as well. And your car, Barry's car, went straight and true. Yours made that patented move it likes to make, and you brought it back into the groove and were able to pull around him. So you give us the rundown of going into the final from behind the steering wheel.
The car had made the little move to the left against Todd. Not bad. It had got progressively better throughout the day. And to be honest, I was going to make a slight ladder bar adjustment, and I got a little bit nervous about making it. So I moved the wheelie bar half a turn and made a slight shock adjustment, just trying to be ginger. I had decided that if it made a move, I would rather make it later on. If the ladder bar needed adjusted, I thought I could band-aid it with a wheelie bar and get some car speed up so I could make adjustments down the racetrack. And a little bit of false sense of hope there. I'm not sure what happened. I think I left at the right RPM, but for whatever reason, it made a very violent left turn pretty early on. And I guess that's probably the most steering wheel input I've ever had in it. I was starting to get nervous, had both hands on the wheel, just waiting on it to come back across the racetrack. But got lucky and it took it. It didn't like it, but it took it, and had enough horsepower to run Barry down up top because he had left on me, and at half track he had me by at least a couple of feet. So the John Kazi horsepower absolutely pulled us back around and put us up front there right at the stripe.
And putting the storylines together of the breakage and failures at Brainerd, and come back second race of the year and reestablish yourself and put the field on notice that, hey, though we had our issues at Brainerd, we're capable of coming back as strong as ever and winning a race in Southeast Gassers Association A-Gas competition. There you are with your wife Katie in victory lane, picking up another win in Southeast Gassers Association drag racing. How many is it by now? How many have you got? Do you know the exact number?
Not really. There's 5 at Shadyside. I do know that. I think it 14, 16, 17, something like that. I know there was 5 at Shadyside because we counted the other day. I've won Shady's every year since I've got on with Kazi. I've won at least a race at Shadyside. It's absolutely my favorite place to go race. I know the track. I know how they prep. Know that everything's just, it suits me great, and I look forward to the Shadyside races every year, hands down, by far my favorite.
So many competitors do. Fans also look forward to it as well. It was my understanding that the race had a line backed up nearly 4 miles of people trying to get into that place to experience Sega drag racing at Shadyside. And from what I understand, the Buffs are going to work on that too. And they are certainly making improvements of getting people in and out and parking and making that facility that much more fan friendly. And certainly glad to hear that. And we'll talk about that in a few moments right here on Between the Slicks. Now, how did the relationship with you and Kazi Racing Engines form? Because, when I think Kazi Racing Engines, I think of like Johnny Placino, and I think of Extreme Pro Stock or Mountain Motor Pro Stock. It seems like where he is certainly most well known. And here is a power plant in an old Ford in nostalgia drag racing of the Southeast Gassers Association. So how did it develop?
Well, I mean, as a kid, Kazi was always kind of a hero. I remember walking around the pits at IHRA races in the mid-90s when Quang was racing Pro Mod, and my dad pointing out like, hey, that's a Kazi motor, it's going to be fast or whatever. And then, later on as things progressed, we ended up talking to Kazi. I followed him on the Engine Master stuff through Hot Rod Magazine there as a teenager through high school, and ended up having some troubles there in 2020, I guess, maybe something like that. And Quang had, my sponsor, Robbie Bird, we were talking back and forth, and Quang had mentioned that maybe we should reach out to Kazi and see if he was interested in doing something, because I had a small block with Cleveland Heads, and that's really where Kazi got his his real start back in the early 70s with Dino Don, and talked to John, and he just put the stuff we had back together, fixed some little issues we had. Ended up going out and winning the first race that I ever raced with one of his engines. I won the race. That was Ohio of 2020, I think. Went up there, ran the best number I'd ever ran on Friday night, won the race, won 3 out of the last 5 races that year, maybe, I think. And I guess it's progressed from there. He's built us 3 engines now. And I tell my wife all the time, it's so cool to see John Kazi pop up and call me on Sunday afternoons to talk about the race. I mean, just so surreal that somebody that, drag racing royalty still calls little old me and talks on Sunday. So it's a pretty cool deal.
It is, man, and I know how that feels. When I go into work at McKinney Corp, the race shop with Murph McKinney, and able to help them with social media and some of the marketing things, it's like, wow. I mean, true bona fide legend of the sport, and able to interact and work with such a cool guy, then see everything that's going on at McKinney Corp. I certainly understand where you're coming from, and that is great. What a wonderful story, and I know that with him giving you those phone calls, that he certainly values greatly, and just as greatly, the wins that you're getting in Sega competition compared to such as a Johnny Placino in PDRA and NHRA Mountain Motor Pro Stock. And that also is very cool, that your wins are valued right up there with those type of performances.
Yeah, I mean, John loves the kind of racing we're doing. There's no doubt, as do a lot of guys who have been around the drag racing scene for a long time. I mean, that's where they cut their teeth at, for the most part, all of them. The guys that have been there in the 60s and 70s, 50s, 80s, up until then, it was, Southeast Gassers are doing pretty much the only thing they could experience until the bracket racing came out. So, they love the weight to cubic inch, 4 speeds, no driver aids. I mean, it's taking them back to the time when they were younger and just getting their start. And I think obviously a lot of them enjoy getting to relive a little bit of their youth in the things we're doing.
All right, let's dive in on this. Let's get your answer. You have been adamant so far this year that you are not running for a championship, though you won the championship in 2023. You're the defending champion, but you're already like, I'm not defending it. I'm not running this championship, and you've already stated that more than likely you're not going to the next race on the calendar season in Ohio. So why this decision, one, not to defend your title? You're already, I'm not defending it. And what in particular about Ohio, for example, keeps you from heading up the road and competing at Killcare?
I think I've been at this, I'm guessing, I'm pretty sure for a fact I'm the longest standing, never missed a race streak, other than Quayne missed a race, I think, for COVID. So I guess right now, currently, I have the longest never missed a race streak that Southeast Gassers has saw. I think I've been 11 seasons and never missed a single race. To be honest, just tired of traveling for a season. It's not that I'm tired of racing. I love racing as much as anybody in the world, but I've been to all these places. I've saw it all. I feel like I proved my point last season. Being able to come back and capitalize on winning a championship again. It wasn't a fluke the first time I won. I proved the point I wanted to, and just got married. We've got a house. I was out planting grass seed here till 15 minutes before the show, pretty much. I've got a lot of things around here I need to get done. I like racing, but at the same time, somebody's going to have to beg me real hard to go to Ohio. It's just a long drive, and I don't like the drive. Cincinnati sucks. I just not really looking forward to it. I like racing, but I like racing in the Southeast.
All right. No, hey, it makes sense. Even recent changes in my life, having, Megan come in and girlfriend, I've had to be like, this race is closer and I can spend time and I can do travels and connect dots and things of that nature. So it certainly changes things. And hey, you proved a point last year for sure. You're the champion and you made a statement. I will ask this, though. What would it take for you to make the Ohio race? Is there a dollar amount? Is there a sponsor support number to get you to Ohio? What would make sense for Gabriel Burrell and Katie Burrell and the Southern Flower team to fly on northwards to Ohio?
To be honest, I haven't put much thought towards it. Really, I mean, obviously the money issue does matter, but at the same time, Katie has to take one of her limited days off a year to drive up the interstate on Thursday usually to get there, and then has to take off on Friday as well for us to go race, and then we get home late on Sunday evening from that race later on Sunday evening. So it's really a time issue as well. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you 100% I'm not going, but I have zero intent on going at this point.
Okay.
Just in my mind, it doesn't truly make sense to go chase it this year. I talked to John, I guess yesterday, and we talked about it. And I talked to my sponsor yesterday about it. I'm at peace with missing my first race at this point. And like I said, I'll sit here and watch it from home and cheer along. If I miss the live updates, I can check it out Monday or Tuesday when you get your update out. And when they come back closer to home, I'll come back and join in with the fun.
And there's no telling, depending on your intentions on what you do and don't miss and how competition goes, going into the last race of the year, you might very well be in the hunt. Maybe an outside chance. You just never know what happens out there in competition. Crazy things certainly happen.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Me and Katie were actually talking about going to the race last night, and I was like, the only way I'm going is if you tell me we're going. And she was like, well, why would I do that? And I was like, you're not going to. I'm just saying, like, I'm okay with missing it, and unless you're begging me to go to this race, I don't foresee anything changing short of somebody offering me some sum of money that I can't refuse to go race or whatever. I don't, my heart is content with not going. So she's really one of the few people who could tell me, like, hey, I want to go to this, and I'll make it happen. I've done what I wanted to do. So
I like that. No, I like that. You made the statement. You proved your point, and you're a multi-time champion in Southeast Gassers Association drag racing in the A-Gas category. Multitude of wins. I need an official stat person to give figure out who has like the most wins. I know Kenneth is up there with a large amount of wins, and others as well.
I would think Kenneth. I don't know who's got the most, to be honest. Tim Bailey used to win a good bit, I think. Donovan won a whole lot. Shannon Smith won a good many way back when. And now I would guess Tim Hall, Todd Oden, Kenneth. I would think one of those are probably. I don't know who would have the most. I have no idea who's really got the most. Never stopped and thought about it, but I would guess it's one of them. But back to your thing about whether we could have a chance. Yeah, if we were talking, if we miss this race and we end up being in the hunt later on, it may be hard to skip Gulfport. If we skip this one and still manage to stay in the hunt, it may be hard to skip Gulfport. But as of right now, my intent personally is I'm going to miss Gulfport. I'm going to miss Ohio, and I may miss another one or two in there. It just depends on what's going back home.
All right. Well, this just in. Leslie Horn always loves to stir the pot. He says, how about a $1,000 grudge match Friday night at Ohio, Chick Magnet and Southern Flyer?
What if he beats me? Then I just lost the gas money to get there.
Well, maybe this is someone putting it up, just like Robbins or Parables. They put up, and I don't think Quayne lost either way, and it was either going to be one of them winning out. So maybe it's that. I don't know. Maybe someone could step up, and we've got that Friday night matchup, or maybe it's another setup in qualifying type of situation in round one. I think some things can be negotiated here. I'm certain Leslie would be more than glad to do it. He is a realtor. He knows how to negotiate. So.
Yeah, he is. He's definitely good at the negotiation process there. But I mean, I've got shocks and off right now. I've got an engine that really needs to be freshened up. It may have one more race in it, but the rods are starting to get enough runs on them. They need freshened, and just missing this race really makes the most sense for my program at the point I'm at. Said I'm not gonna stick my hand on the Bible and tell you I'm not going, but I really have zero intent on making it. So
Gotcha. Well, I will say this: if you're going to miss one, I think Ohio makes sense, but maybe someone out there can help you with that Gulfport situation, and the latter part of the year definitely being in the hunt. Then you'll see Mr. Burrell down there in Gulfport, which I heard was a great event last year, and it's certainly shaping up already to be another great event. Leslie chimes in again and says, "Is that all you got? Let me get my violin out." Yeah. Let's see. Leslie went through a transmission and went through a motor. Couldn't get his backup motor back. I mean, he could have from Ben Christopher, but Ben Christopher already had it and had to borrow a motor. So, yeah, very, very interesting. And Drag Racing Mayhem, let's see what he says. Love to see that a group of old school racers have the modern day grudge smack talk down perfectly. Yes, they do. It is good, the talking back and forth. And they're all buddies at the end of the day for sure, but they want to beat each other. And I love the rivalries amongst the group. Hey, speaking of that, who do you out there feel that you have the biggest rivalry with? When they line up against you in the other lane, who is that racer out there that you want to beat the most in A-Gas?
Used to, I'd have probably said it was Ben Christopher here a couple of years ago, but I guess here the last 3 seasons, obviously it's Leslie, and we've been trading blows back and forth here for, I guess, 3 seasons. It's been either him or I, one finishing first and the other one finishing second for 3 seasons. So I would think definitely, last year, and if he's wanting the stats, he didn't outrun me a single time last season. So.
There we go. I like it. Certainly keeping the stats on the real important ones, I see for sure. The chick magnet has not been able to capture the Southern Flyer. I think we'll put it that way. Well, Mr. Burrell, look, thank you for your time. Congratulations once again on the win at the Shelby Nationals presented by Robbins Repairables. And if it is or if it is not Ohio, the next time we see you down the road at the track, we certainly know that you are going to be an intense competitor and certainly one vying for the win. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Have a good evening.
You too.
Well, folks, Gabriel Burrell, the winner of the Shelby Nationals in A-Gas, and you can see all the action on Monday Morning Racer for the A-Gas category right now on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel. So this is what I recommend. You stay right here, continue to watch the show as we roll into drag racing news, and then you go by the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel and see the A-Gas action from the Shelby Nationals at Shadyside Dragway, presented by Robbins Repairables on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel. Again, all this presented by McKinney Corp. I stopped by Dean Jonas and was chatting with him and got an interview with him getting a couple of round wins on the very video that just mentioned. And he works over at Tommy Mooney Race Cars, a legendary chassis builder, and, mentioned to Dean, hey, if McKinney Corp can assist you all in any way, let us know, because McKinney Corp does assist well beyond the fuel world of Top Fuel Dragsters and Fuel Funny Cars and Fuel Alters into, for example, Larry Jeffers Race Cars. There are products that they buy from McKinney Corp, and Jerry Bickle Race Cars. There are products that they buy from McKinney Corp. And come to find out that Tommy Mooney does use the services of McKinney Corp in producing buying the tanks. McKinney Corp is known throughout the industry of having the best tanks out there you can buy, especially the thought is of those of any supercharged application. That's why when you look at Top Fuel and you look at Fuel Funny Car and the NHRA and beyond, most of the oil and fuel tanks that you see out there, including the Puke tanks, they are assembled, fabricated, and welded together at McKinney Corp. Whatever you might need, your fab source, it should be McKinney Corp. Thank you for their support and their help right here between the slicks and in the world of drag racing. A word from them and then drag racing news right here on Between the Slicks.
McKinney Motorsports is your #1 source for all your chassis needs. McKinney Motorsports is the leading chassis parts supplier and fabricator in nitro drag racing. From custom tanks and fittings, full chassis builds, body mounts, steering components, fasteners, tabs, clamps, composite parts, and much more. Our household name in the racing world guarantees added performance on the track. Join our list of proven winners that spans over 50 years of racing experience.
In drag news, we will go back to Southeast Gassers Association competition. Let's give you the rundown of those who were able to win beyond Mr. Burrell in his Southern Flyer in the A-Gas category. In H-Gas, an exhibition class, it was Mr. Robert Frazier in his Midnight Rambler, such a beautiful machine. He's had it in several different categories and finding a good place for that car and himself in H-Gas competition. Then in C-Gas, it was Todd Oden. Todd Oden gets the win in C-Gas. Here he is right here, the Double Trouble machine, a beautiful drag car out there in the Southeast Gassers Association drag racing world. He gets the win in C-Gas. And then the second win of the year, 2 in a row for Mr. Colby Welch in B-Gas, in that beautiful Moonbeam Falcon Ranchero out there in B-Gas competition. He is certainly getting it done already this year. 2 wins for a former champion in the Southeast Gassers Association in the B-Gas category. It is certainly shaping up to be one of the most competitive years, I think, in Southeast Gassers Association competition throughout all of the categories. Plenty of storylines, well beyond what I'm able to capture. And remember, you can see all the action recaps on PowerTube TV. They will be coming out soon enough, and once they are out, you'll see them rolling out and be tied closer to the events and when they do happen. For the Southeast Gasser Association, their next race is the Buckeye Nationals at Kill Care Dragway. They're in Xenia, Ohio. If you're not familiar where Xenia is, it's not too far east of Dayton, Ohio. So if you live in Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Cleveland, those places, the Buckeye Nationals certainly would not be that far for you to go and experience the great drag racing that the Southeast Gassers Association puts on. The Buckeye Nationals presented by Decked Out Restorations, and certainly if you can catch them at Kill Care, I highly recommend you to do just that. I have not been to this event at Kill Care yet, and it does look like this year I will be able to catch it. Looking forward to going to a facility that I have heard so many good things about, that the Southeast Gassers Association races at. And beyond the race there in Ohio, you're looking at the race in Knoxville, then Union, South Carolina, London, Kentucky, then back to North Carolina at Mooresville Dragway, back to Knoxville, Gulfport, Mississippi, and to end out the year back at Shadyside for the Southeast Gassers Association finals. You can stay up to date on all things Sega on their YouTube channel, and also you can stay up to date on all things Sega on their social media platform. And if you want Southeast Gassers Association gear, the swag from Sega, that is Southeast Gassers SoutheastGassersGear.com, if I remember correctly. And if Steven happens to be watching, Steven, feel free to put in the comment section that link so people can buy the gear for the Southeast Gassers Association. We're going to continue rolling on and look at drag racing news. The NHRA, in particular, the Mission Foods series, was in competition at Las Vegas for the first 4-wide of the year, and those winning in the professional categories. Doug Coletta wins his first 4-wide. You have in Fuel Funny Car Bob Tasca winning a tremendous drag race on a triple hole shot, spectacular drag race in Nitro Fuel Funny Car, and then Jed Coughlin Jr., the natural, picking up a win in Pro Stock. In the alcohol ranks, it was Sean Bellemere winning in the floppers of Top Alcohol Funny Car, and it was Sean Cowie, a blown methanol combination in Top Alcohol Dragster, besting the nitro-injected machines for the win out in the desert. Also want to mention from the NMCA, they both do run together, but the National Muscle Car Association, the Redline National Muscle Car Association, it was Scott Wildgus picking up the win at Rockingham this past week in Pro Modified. He gets it done there at The Rock, and that is also a track that we definitely need to take the time, get those owners on. They have been making huge improvements to that facility. It's so good that so many tracks are making big improvements. This weekend, and looking ahead elsewhere in the world of drag racing, want to take time to mention some items that are on my radar for this weekend. Funny Car Chaos, they are going to be at State Capitol Raceway, and you can see the best funny car action in the state of Louisiana and beyond. Funny Car Chaos there this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Last I looked, weather looked like it is going to hold out. They're going to be able to get this race in. The Midwest Drag Racing Series was to have their event in Lufkin, Texas at Pine Valley Raceway, including Funny Car and their Pro Modified and other sportsman racing, but they have already postponed that event due to weather. But it does look like the Funny Car Chaos event will have fair weather for their event. The PDRA, Professional Drag Racers Association, they will be in competition this weekend as well. The Mid-Atlantic Showdown taking place at Virginia Motorsports Park. There you see Jim Halsey, pro nitrous competitor, ripping down the drag strip. So if you want to catch drag racing action just outside of Richmond, Virginia Motorsports Park, the Redline PDRA Drag Racing Series with the Mid-Atlantic Showdown will be taking place. And as Drag Racing Mayhem mentioned, the Street Outlaws No Prep Kings Season 7 will fire up this weekend at Maple Grove Raceway. They're down there in the Grove to fire things up, and then they will roll on in their season. And what an interesting lineup of tracks that they compete at. Those that have national events and those that are great facilities but do not hold national events. You can see that they got Flying H drag strip on the list, and Extreme Raceway Park, Cordova Dragway, one of the most historic drag strips that there are, period. Beach Bend, they're racing there, and National Trail and Empire Dragway. Love Empire Dragway just south of Rochester, New York, and that is another track that has made huge improvements over the years. I can remember them making many improvements while they were under restrictions with COVID. Speaking of restrictions, I do want to take the time and I do want to bring up all that Shadyside has done. That's where the Southeast Gassers Association just wrapped up drag racing for the Shelby Nationals presented by Robbins Repairable. And Shadyside is a historic drag strip. It has been around since the late 50s, early 60s, and it has been an outlaw of outlaw tracks, but they have took the time with the Buffs, and we were able to talk with them on the last episode of Between the Slicks of what they have done and what they do plan to do. But being able to see it all in person, I just love it and want to take the time to brag on Shadyside Dragway. Iconic. You can sit on the heels and watch out over the drag strip, or you can now partake in enjoying the drag racing in these new aluminum bleachers. And it finally gave you a view of the whole drag strip and not just one portion of it until they got beyond. And as you can see, that new section is not the only section they plan. They plan on adding more. They plan on making it more accessible for those that are handicapped or a bit impaired there at Shadyside. And the crowd was tremendous for this event, as it usually is, but it continues to grow. As mentioned earlier, they were backed up 4 miles of people trying to get into the facility. As you can see, a great crowd there, a great crowd here throughout the day, people coming and going, but it never seemed like it was light the whole entire time at Shadyside Dragway. It was great to see, and it is good to see that a track like Shadyside, the Buffs in ownership, they are making plans to improve and make the place better. And that is something that every track needs to be doing. And I think every track that is doing these very things, we need to recognize it. And for those of you watching, such as Dujanay Bland with the Not Bland Show and Aiden with Drag Racing Mayhem and others, we need people to understand. We need people to see that tracks are improving. We see all the time tracks closing and the negativity around that, but we don't see enough the positivity of tracks improving, just like what they're doing at Shadyside. And I mentioned Shadyside because, well, that's where I was most recently, and that's the most recent event that I was at. But plenty of tracks are making improvements throughout this country to improve fan and racer visits alike, and that is so good to hear. What I like about Shadyside as well, so many updates, but they're not done. We are basically looking at phase 1, and they have many more phases to come. I love how this most recent event, there was a shuttle. People could get on it with parking and get closer. And, yeah, they charged a little extra in some areas, but supply and demand, and it was still a reasonable charge and a great value for what people got. And I posted a photo on the Monday Morning Racer Facebook page and Instagram that took us about 30 minutes to get in, and I posted a being in line that at 10 a.m. the line was already there, and it was already backing up before racing started for qualifying at 1 p.m., and it was really backed up, I imagine, by then, that 4 miles backed up. But so many people have chimed in and have said that they were stuck in traffic for an hour and a half, and I've responded to them saying an hour and a half and said, well, what did you think? Was it worth it? And routinely it comes back, it was worth it. So just imagine, they get the parking worked out, they get people in a little quicker, that ingress and egress situation that is so important in events and at facilities, and in particular drag racing with big events. And the Shadyside will continue to move forward and upward in the economy of drag racing. And it has a spectacular historical place of so many people and so many big names racing on that track and cutting their teeth, and the sport moving forward. When you think of like Pro Modified, some of its earliest races and the formation of it, Shadyside is a part of that. People like Scotty Cannon, for example, were racing at a Shadyside and Greer Dragway and so on in places of the upstate of South Carolina and the tracks in Western North Carolina and beyond. So it certainly has a tremendous place in the world of drag racing. I love what the Buffs are doing with moving the facility forward. We'll go to the comment section here at this time on Between the Slicks. Kimmy Walrus, vids are great. I thank you. Appreciate that. And thank you for watching, and hit the share button for me, and tell a friend and let them know that they can catch Southeast Gassers Association action on the Monday Morning Racer platform. The Not Blend Show. How about Drag and Drive being at Route 66 Raceway this year? They were there last year. It's so good that they're going to be back this year. I haven't read the full article on the capacity. It was certainly an exhibition class last year, and they only had about 4 or 6 cars, if I remember correctly, competing. And yes, it would be an exhibition type scenario, but I hope they have upped the competition level and the allowance of competitors, and we're going to see more in the drag and drive competition. Drag and drive is such a great area of drag racing right now. Has been for a while, honestly, but it seems like in the last 2-3 years, it just has blown up in popularity, even beyond where it was. And this infusion, again, of hot rodding and drag racing, you really see it in the drag and drive world. Drag Racing Mayhem. Let's see. Drag Racing Mayhem. How is the infrastructure around Shadyside? Maple Grove has similar problems. Well, Maple Grove does have similar problems. You've got all these roads that twist and wind and up and down, and boom, they come out to Maple Grove and kind of surround it. And it does. If you do not leave early to get to Maple Grove, especially on Sunday, you're going to be sitting in traffic, and you're going to be on the hill, and you're going to be watching Top Fuel go down round 1 from your vehicle. That is going to happen very, very often, and that's not going to change anytime soon, I don't think, just because of the nature of where the track is. And I would say Shadyside is in a very similar situation. It's one of those matters of someone put a drag strip in a place, and there probably wasn't that much foresight to, this is going to be this popular later on down the road. But there are certainly things the Buffs know that they can improve, and they're working on that to improve it. And again, phase 1 was something that was evident this most recent race, just with having shuttles and parking people in particular places depending on what they did or did not have, whether they brought a golf cart or whether they were camping. So it is certainly something that has to be considered. And I have to, bring up in this comment and say, if you're a fan, this is something you've also got to take into consideration too. Last year for NHRA, Maple Grove, Drag Racing Mayhem is mentioning here, left at 5 a.m. Okay. If you know that it is a struggle to get into a track, you need to get there, and you need to try to get there as early as possible, or just be okay with the wait, because you do have an influx of people. And I think that's something that does need to be brought into consideration. But I know any track and any promoter that cares, that has a concern, and that wants the fan to have a good experience, they are concerned with where that experience starts. And that experience does not start when they get through the gate. That experience starts on the road showing up to the track. It is something Bill Bader Jr. with Summit Racing Equipment Motorsports Park preaches on, and I have seen him take it seriously, the ingress and egress of an event. Matter of fact, so seriously, I've seen this man try to contact a track representative to talk to the highway patrolman of directing traffic of why one lot is not getting out opposed to another one, and he could not get that highway patrolman attention. And well, he just left the crow's nest there at Summit Motorsports Park and went down himself and started directing things as needed. So the people who want to have good events, and they want to be remembered for having a good event, the event is not the only thing you're concerned about through the gate. It's before people ever get to the gate. That's when the experience starts, honestly. Well, in the world of drag racing, things are moving forward, and we're at full song throughout this country, and drag racing certainly is alive and well, from the NMRA, the NMCA, the PDRA, Sega, Funny Car Chaos, Midwest Drag Racing Series, NHRA, and as Travis Clark chimes in, the Drag and Drive is my game. Drag and Drive is alive and well. It's all good. Drag racing is just good right now. I mean, you can go from watching Southeast Gassers Association drag racing. Like, I'm just thinking in the Southeast, you could have experienced a week before that premier 8th Mile door slammer drag racing at Galop Lot Motorsports Park at the PDRA, or you could have also experienced great pro mod drag racing with the NMCA at Rockingham Dragway, or spectacular nostalgia drag racing with the Southeast Gassers Association. You have ZMAX with the 4 wides about to roll in. And that's just highlighting. That's not including many great bracket programs. I think of Brainerd Motorsports Park, where the Southeast Gassers Association season started. I believe it's this weekend. They have a 440 shootout, I think is the way that they have time. So some rather fast door cars in a quick 8 type of format. You can put it that way. Drag racing is alive and well. And I want to say this. Go support your local track. Do not wait for your national event to come. Do not wait for the big boys to show up. Go support your local track this weekend, wherever that may be. And I'll go as far as say, though this is a drag racing show, in whatever form of racing it may be, go support your local track. Buy a ticket, get a corn dog. Hopefully they have the good fries, and enjoy some racing. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Lee Craft. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button on the way out and hit the share button, and pay attention to the Monday Morning Racer platform for the next time that we have Between the Slicks and talk to those in the world of drag racing and talk about the world of drag racing. God bless, and keep the pedal to the metal.
If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your central console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it into neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS, Theft Deterrent System, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to Destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your Theft Deterrent System TDS and steal the thieves' hope.